Hello and welcome to the Scottish English podcast, where we explore Scotland's history, culture, and distinctive accents. I'm Claire and I'm excited to tell you all about International Women's Day, which happened just this past weekend. In this episode, we'll explore how Scotland celebrates this day, highlight some women who have shaped the country's history, and the ongoing efforts to ensure equality for all. Whether you're an English language learner or you just love hearing about Scottish history and culture, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in. The history of International Women's Day. International Women's Day is celebrated on the 8th of March every year. It began over a century ago in the early 1900s as part of the fight for women's rights. Initially, the day was a call for women to have better working conditions, the right to vote, and equality in society. The day has since grown into a global event, celebrating the achievements of women while also highlighting the need for further progress. The first National Women's Day was celebrated in the United States in 1909, but the idea quickly spread around the world. In 1910, at a conference in Copenhagen, the idea for an international day to support women's rights was proposed by Clara Zetkin, a German socialist, and by 1911, the first International Women's Day was celebrated by several European countries. Since then, International Women's Day has become a symbol of solidarity as women and men around the world unite to reflect on both the progress made and the work that still lies ahead. International Women's Day in Scotland. Scotland, like many countries, has embraced International Women's Day with a blend of celebration and reflection. It's a day that isn't just about commemorating the women of the past, but also looking at how Scotland is supporting women today and into the future. In cities like Edinburgh and Glasgow, the day is marked by events that highlight the struggles women have faced throughout history and celebrate their contributions to modern life. From performances to public talks, from marches to exhibitions, the day is filled with events that engage women and men in discussions about equality. Scotland's involvement in the movement for women's rights has deep historical roots. As well as other countries in the UK, Scotland and its women had a strong desire to have equal suffrage, or the right to vote, since the early 20th century. The Women's Social and Political Union, which was founded in Manchester by Emmeline Pankhurst and others in 1903, opened its first Scottish branch in Glasgow in 1906. From the start, their motto was deeds, not words. Their aim wasn't just to win votes for women, but by doing so, improve the lives and opportunities for women as well. Some campaigners even took to violence to bring attention to their cause. These types of acts also happened in Scotland, with attacks in galleries in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and women being arrested for smashing windows. It is well documented that some suffragists went on hunger strike. One brutal example of this is Arabella Scott, who was arrested after a fire at the Kelso racecourse and endured 5 weeks of being force-fed at Perth prison. During this time, she was tied to her bed and wasn't allowed to see anyone. The campaigning and effort of women across Great Britain during the First World War was acknowledged, and the Representation of the People Act, 1918, granted women over the age of 30 the vote. In 1929, Scottish politician Jenny Lee was elected a member of the House of Commons at the age of 24, where she was in the curious position of still being too young to be able to vote. It was to be another 30 years before the voting age was dropped to 18, where it remains to this day. Influential Scottish women in history. Before we talk about the current state of women's rights in Scotland, let's take a moment to honour some remarkable Scottish women throughout history. Their legacies continue to inspire people around the world today. One of the most famous names in Scottish history is Mary, Queen of Scots, and I will definitely be doing a podcast about her in the future, so keep an eye out for that one. Mary was born in 1542 and was Queen of Scotland for most of the 16th century. Her life was full of intrigue, betrayal, and political battles, but she remains a symbol of strength and determination. Despite facing enormous challenges, Mary ruled Scotland with a keen political mind. Another important name in Scottish history is Flora McDonald, a heroine known for her role in helping Bonnie Prince Charlie escape from Scotland after the Battle of Culloden in 1746. McDonald's bravery during this turbulent time made her a symbol of loyalty and courage. And we can't forget the Edinburgh Seven, a group of women who were the first matriculated undergraduate female students at any British university. Their campaign gained national attention and was the first step towards equal access to higher education for women in Scotland and the rest of the UK. These women, along with countless others, have shaped Scotland's past and present. The struggle for gender equality today. Despite many achievements, the fight for gender equality is far from over. In Scotland, as in many parts of the world, women still face challenges related to pay inequality, representation in leadership roles, and access to healthcare. International Women's Day is a reminder that while progress has been made, we need to keep working for a more equal society. Scotland has made significant strides over the last few decades. For example, in 2018, Scotland became the first country in the world to offer free sanitary products to all students in colleges, schools, and universities. This move was part of a larger effort to tackle period poverty, a serious issue affecting many women in Scotland and beyond. However, challenges remain. Studies still show that women in Scotland still earn on average 7% less than men, and women are underrepresented in positions of power. International Women's Day serves as a day of reflection, but also a call to action for policy changes and social transformation. Celebrating International Women's Day in Scotland. International Women's Day in Scotland is about celebration, but it's also about raising awareness. In 2023, for example, there were events like the Edinburgh International Women's Day Festival, which showcased women's art, poetry, and music. There were also marches, panel discussions, and networking events to discuss everything from gender equality to women's rights on a global scale. It's not just the big cities like Edinburgh and Glasgow that celebrate either. Smaller towns and communities across Scotland also mark the day with local events, from educational workshops to performances by women artists. For people in Scotland, International Women's Day is not just about commemorating the past, it's about shaping the future. As we wrap up today's episode, it's clear that International Women's Day in Scotland is much more than just a celebration. It's a call to action. It's a reminder of the ongoing struggle for gender equality and women's rights all around the world. But it's also a celebration of women who have shaped history and those who continue to make a difference today. As you think about the significance of International Women's Day, consider how you can support the cause, whether through education, awareness, or simply celebrating the women in your life. That's all for this episode. If you've enjoyed today's journey through Scottish history, please do like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget that you can get the link to the transcript of this episode in the description box. And if you want to practice your English, summarize the impact an important woman has had in your life down in the comments. Thanks for listening to the Scottish English podcast. See you later, pals.